Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I thought it would be fun to talk about my PSP game collection and go over that and what my favourite games are and what games I've recently been buying. So if you've watched my other video where I talked through my retro handheld collection, in that kind of talked about how I'd been getting into handheld PSP gaming. And so I used to have a PSP as a child, so this was my childhood PSP. It's a PSP 1000, and I've got lots of memories of playing games on this when I was younger. But in more recent years, I've kind of gotten back into collecting PSPs and PSP games. So I brought a PSP 2000, so this is a silver one. And then I've got a few games as well in my collection. And then I've also recently been buying a couple more games as well. So I've split out my games into my favourites, ones that I'm then interested and keen to play more of. These might be ones that I've recently brought or ones that I've had in the past but then never really played much of. And then I've another set of games which are kind of like backlog games, which I will eventually get around to playing at some point. I'm a bit terrible for starting games and never finishing them, so I'm really trying to actually play through games at the moment. In my collection, I have 17 games altogether, so let's get started and jump into my favourite games. The first of these is one that I absolutely love, and that is Star Wars Battlefront 2. So I played this loads growing up on the PlayStation 2, both Star Wars Battlefront 1 and Star Wars Battlefront 2. So it's a game that I absolutely love. I'm a huge Star Wars fan as well. I love the fact that it's kind of just like a shoot people in a battlefield, cap the battlefield, and then move on type of game. Yeah, I've always loved this as a kid, and I find it surprising that such a small handheld can play a game like this where there's several different NPCs on a battlefield. Obviously, compared to the PlayStation 2 version or other consoles versions, there's more sort of NPCs on the battlefield, but I still think that this version of the game really encapsulates sort of like the original format of Star Wars Battlefront 1. And I love as well, it's got a lot of different maps and the sort of different time periods that you can play in as well. I think it's just a great game where I can just pick up, jump into instant action, play sort of a couple of rounds on it, and then put it down. So my next game, so this is more of a recent purchase, but I have been playing it quite a bit recently and really enjoying, and that's the Sims 2. So I am a huge Sims fan. I played Sims growing up on various different consoles as well as on the PC. So Sims 2 being sort of my favourite one. I think it's the one with the sort of the most chaotic gameplay, especially on the PC. I've been playing that a lot recently, and I'm surprised by how hard it is compared to The Sims 4. The fact that you can play The Sims 2 on the PSP, I find really good. And what I really enjoy about this Sims game is the fact that you actually control your sim, so kind of like sit behind in third person and control them and walk around, which I think is really fun compared to the sort of PC Sims where you've got that top-down view and you kind of click to move. So I think that adds a fun aspect to it. I am going to say I am finding this game quite hard, so I'm currently trying to up my socialisation and my friendship level with a few of the NPCs and the Sims in the game. And I keep failing at it. Obviously I need to level up my charisma skills. But again, it's really, really quirky. I like the fact that a lot of the humour and aspects of the PC game have transitioned and translated into this game as well. And I'm pretty sure as well it uses the same models as The Sims 2 on the PC, just obviously down-resed, which is really, really, really fun. Really enjoying that. Another game from my childhood that I absolutely adored was Thrillville Off the Rails. So I'm a huge theme park fan, both in video games and in real life. So any game where you manage and run a theme park, I've always really, really enjoyed. And this is one that I played a lot as a kid. And I think it's a sort of a simpler theme park management game. If I'm remembering correctly, I haven't played it recently. You only have like certain plots that you can put rides down. And it's more kind of the more mini game based, where you play mini games when you go on certain rides. And again, as well with this, you can go for a third person view and walk around the park and interact with guests. I remember there was a mini game where you play as a cheerleader and you had to do some basically like a rhythm mini game to certain songs, and I absolutely loved playing that as a kid. So yeah, I've not been playing this yet, but I'm looking forward to playing this when I get the chance. And then the next game in my favourites is the Simpsons game. This is another one that I had as a kid and absolutely loved playing. I was a huge fan of the film, so this came out, I think, around the same time, and I really liked how this one had different levels set to different themes. So it's just a platformer game, but I can distinctly remember, obviously the starting level is the chocolate level, and then one of the later levels is like a medieval level, and I found that really fun, whereas you play like the different characters in sort of like the different themed worlds. It's a bit more of like a simple game. As I said, it's just like a platformer, but still fun nonetheless. And then my final favourite game in the pile is Lock and Row. So I don't have the case for this one. This is actually a childhood game, and I think we must have got rid of the case at some point, so I need to rebuy the case for this. But this is just sort of like a simple puzzle platformer, and that has really sort of cute, charming music. It's got really charming visuals to it as well. And again, loads of fond memories as a kid playing that game. I think there is some levels where it gets especially difficult when you're trying to like max out everything, so when you're trying to get all of the little weird potato people. So yeah, just a fun little mindless game, and it has like the unique mechanic on it where you sort of just use the bumpers to turn the screen and then hold them down to jump, which is a fun use of sort of like simple mechanics in a game. So those are sort of my favourite PSP games that I own, these 5. So then moving on to games that are more recent purchases, bar one, and are games that I really want to play sort of once I've played through my favourite games. So starting off with Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron. Obviously it's a Star Wars Battlefront game, so I love anything Star Wars Battlefront. I never played this one growing up. It was just Star Wars Battlefront 2 I had. So I've been playing a bit of this, playing through the campaign, and it's got an alright story. It's an interesting premise that you play as a Force-sensitive clone, and basically it's just a similar mechanic to Star Wars Battlefront 2, where it's just a battlefield and you go through and do space and ground battles. But I'm still really enjoying it. It's very similar to just Star Wars Battlefront 2 in the fact that you kind of just shoot things. But yeah, I'm still enjoying it, and as I said, I really enjoy Star Wars Battlefront games. I do want to get the Star Wars Battlefront, I think it's Rebel Squadron, I think it's called as well. I'm not sure what the difference is, apart from one's Empire and one's Rebel, but spoilers for this game, you kind of play as a rebel in this game anyway, so, well, you play as a clone to begin with and then turn rebel, so I am interested to see how they differ. The next game in the pile is Jak and Daxter, The Lost Frontier. So again, this is another franchise that I absolutely adored as a kid. I used to play it on the PlayStation 2 loads, both Jak and Daxter 1, 2 and 3. So I'm really intrigued by this game. I've not yet played it, and I didn't have this as a kid, but from what I gather, it sort of follows on from the trilogy. So I'll be interested to see if it's sort of the same level of story and sort of the same mechanics. From what I gather, I think it is sort of that similar platformer, slightly open world shooter gameplay to it. I have loads of fond memories of playing Jak and Daxter 3. I really enjoyed that one, especially like driving around the desert. I've got memories of where playing through the campaign, I really struggled with one of the last bosses, so I had to get my friend to complete it for me. But yeah, used to love that. I'm sort of a big fan of any open world game, which nicely brings into the next game, which is Grand Theft Auto Liberty Stories. So I was never allowed Grand Theft Auto games as a kid, and that obviously makes sense. It's an AT where you can shoot people. And in later life, I got into Grand Theft Auto games, especially the one on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I forget the name of it, but sort of one of the later life Grand Theft Auto games. So I brought this one recently, actually. This is a recent edition. I'm looking forward to playing it. As I said, I enjoy open world games, especially ones where you can just sort of like jump in cars, drive around and do what you want. I also find games like this really fun on the PSP, where it's got sort of a big open world with lots of NPCs, but it runs on sort of this little tiny old device. So yeah, excited to play this one. And then next in the pile of games that I'm excited to play is Burnout Dominator. So I really enjoy racing games. this is why this is on the list. Sort of like the main premise of this is sort of reckless driving, so trying to go as far as you can without crashing your car or crashing your car, sort of build up turbo to go faster. It's a relatively simple game, it's just a racing game where you smash things, but I enjoy racing games. And then final game in that pile is an old game as well that is from my childhood collection, and that is Little Big Planet. Again, this is one of those games that I used to love playing on the PlayStation 3 all the time. Played Little Big Planet 1 and Little Big Planet 2. I used to adore making sort of my own levels on it, and I used to be a sucker for all the DLCs on it as well, so I brought all the different packs to make your little sack boy look how you wanted. So again, excited to play that on the PSP. I think it's fun that there's a version of the game on handheld. I've not played it, so I don't really know how it differs, and if it differs much, but if it's anything like the games on the PlayStation 3, I'm sure I will enjoy it. The final games I wanted to go over was games that are in my sort of collection that I own that I just haven't really had the chance to get around to playing because I've got all those other games that I want to play. So the first being Untold Legends Brotherhood of the Blade. So this is a sort of Diablo-esque RPG where you sort of play top down as one of 4 classes, kill things, get loot, and sort of complete dungeons, which I enjoy games like that. I'm a big fantasy game sort of nerd, so yeah, really want to get around to playing this. I know that there's another game in the Untold Legends sort of series, so I'm definitely on the lookout for that and want to add that to my collection as well. So the next game is Sims 2 Pets. As we've touched on before, I love Sims and I love Sims 2, so yeah, it's a no-brainer why I would like this game. I've never really been a big fan of the pets games in the past and on computer. I always find that having a pet just makes things extra hard because you've got something else to look after. I only ever really look after one sim, so I always struggle when I've got more than a family with more than one sim, including pets. But I'm intrigued to see how this differs from just The Sims 2. I think it's similar mechanics wise, so third person, but I'm not sure if it's as story driven as The Sims 2 on the PSP. So yeah, looking forward to seeing the difference. I also know that there's a couple of other Sims games for the PSP which I also want to get. So the next game I have is Dungeons & Dragons Tactics. So as I've just touched on with Brother of the Blade, I enjoy fantasy sort of RPG games. So this being one of them, I want to try this. I have tried to play Dungeons & Dragons Neverwinter Nights on the Nintendo DS, and I struggled with that. I found it quite technical and quite sort of hard to understand and know what I was doing. So I'm hoping that this is different. I've not yet played it, but I like Dungeons & Dragons and this sort of the universe, so yeah, when I get the time, I look forward to playing that. On a similar theme to game franchises that I enjoy, obviously there's Daxter, so that being the spin-off game of Jak and Daxter that was made just for the PSP, so that's where you play as Daxter, the little companion. Again, I did have this as a kid, but I don't think I ever really played it much, so I'm intrigued to play it as an adult. I just want to play through Jak and Daxter, the Lost Frontier first before playing through this, because I think this one is sort of more interesting to me. So next we have Ratchet & Clank, Size Matters. Similar to Jak and Daxter, I think they're in the same sort of theme of games. I used to play Ratchet & Clank quite a bit growing up, so this is sort of the PSP version. Again, I imagine it plays very similar to the main console games, so excited to give this a go. As you can see there, I've just got a lot of games to get through before I get through this. And then finally, we have 2 games where I don't have the cases for. I think these are childhood games, so the cases have gone missing, which I need to buy. So the first being Pet Adventures. So this is a Neopets game. Neopets was one of those PC games that I used to love playing as a kid. As you can tell, I played a lot of different types of games. So the fact that there was a little Neopets game for the PSP. I always thought was fun. It's an RPG, kind of similar to Diablo and Untold Legends in the fact that it's more just kid friendly. So you play as, I think, one of 3 or 4 classes, and then just do quests in sort of like a little mini open world. Very much my type of game. I just need to make time for that one as well. And then finally we have Family Guy video game. So this is in the similar sort of vein as the Simpsons game. I did used to watch Family Guy growing up, but I was more of a Simpsons kid than a Family Guy kid. So yeah, this one I'm not really know too much about it. I think this was actually my brother's game, not mine, but I imagine it's similar to the Simpsons game in the fact that it's like a platformer where you play the characters. So yeah, that's all of my PSP games. As I said, there's 17 in my collection, but I love collecting them and I want to add more. One thing that I do have is a note on my phone where I've got sort of all the games that I want to add to my collection and then what games I do already have. So then I can basically keep track when I'm out and about looking at in sort of retro game stores and in CEX. As you can see, there's quite a few games on the list. But just to give you an example of some of the stuff that I want to get, Crazy Taxi is one, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, I used to love playing that on the console. Test Drive Unlimited, again that was another game that I had on the PlayStation that I absolutely loved, so yeah, I'm on the lookout for that for PSP. Dynasty Warriors as well, that was another one of those games that I've got memories of just endlessly fighting people on that. It's one of those sort of like Battlefield games, so again something that I want to add to my PSP collection. So yeah, that is my PSP game collection. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see my Nintendo 3DS and Nintendo DS game collection, I might do that next in a video. I've got a few different ideas for videos, so yeah, just comment if you enjoyed it and like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.